I thought, with Sue Bird coming in, at least this is someone that has been positive on Caitlyn at times. And I think the issue with Sue Bird, though, is she has her hand kind of in so many things. And with her podcast, where she tries to advocate for the players, but she's also an owner in the league. And now she's got the Team USA thing, and she's got all these connections and relationships she has to maintain. But at the end of the day, if it comes down to someone that went to UConn and someone that did not go to UConn, the UConn Mafia is going to stick together until proven otherwise.
Team USA basketball just committed an act of such spectacular self-sabotage. It's left the entire sports world in a state of pure disbelief. They took the one athlete who has single-handedly revolutionized the visibility and financial potential of women's basketball, a player whose name dwarfs the recognition of entire franchises, and they decided to pick a fight over 2 digits on a piece of fabric. The result? A 5-alarm fire that's threatening to burn down their credibility, and a standoff with the one person they can least afford to lose. This is a story of how a jersey number became the hill the most powerful program in the world is willing to die on, and how Caitlin Clark responded with a move that shocked everyone to their core. It's a clash between old-school institutional control and the new era of athlete empowerment, and the fallout is being watched by every major sports league on the planet. Before we get into this unbelievable story, if you're passionate about sports dramas where egos clash and billion-dollar brands are put on the line, you need to see this. Hit subscribe and tap the like button right now, because what you're about to hear changes everything you thought you knew about power in modern athletics.
We haven't even made it to training camp yet. We have not even made it to the December 12th Women's USA Basketball Training Camp yet, and they are already disrespectful.
We're breaking down every twist in the controversy that has exposed the fragile egos and outdated thinking at the heart of a major sports institution. Let's get straight to the heart of the explosion. According to multiple reports emerging from Team USA's December training camp preparations, officials formally informed rookie sensation Caitlin Clark that she would not be allowed to wear her iconic number 22. This is the number she's worn since childhood. The number plastered on jerseys, selling out in minutes across the country. The number fans associate with those impossible, logo distance three-pointers. And Clark's response, from what insiders are saying, was crystal clear and left absolutely no room for interpretation. If she couldn't wear 22, she wouldn't be wearing any USA jersey at all. She was prepared to walk away from the honor of representing her country over this principle. Immediately, the narrative shifted. This was no longer about a simple roster announcement. It was a full-blown power struggle, and the new face of the sport had just drawn a line in the sand. This wasn't negotiation. It was an ultimatum from a player who understands her value in a way that seems to have completely eluded the very committee tasked with building the sport's future. But here's the detail that transforms this story from a simple disagreement into a mind-boggling act of incompetence. The number 22 wasn't taken. Let me repeat that, because it's the most critical piece of this puzzle. No other player invited to that camp had claimed it. It wasn't being retired in some ceremony. It was just sitting there, available. This fact is what changes everything. Team USA didn't have to force this change. They actively chose to. They looked at the most marketable, recognizable athlete in their sport, saw an utterly vacant number, and decided to tell her she couldn't have it. This decision immediately sparked theories that this was never about logistics. It was about something far more calculated, a message. A reminder that within the halls of USA basketball, no individual star is bigger than the system itself. It was a power play, and it instantly backfired in the most public way imaginable. The sheer pointlessness of the provocation is what makes it so insulting. It was a rule enforced for rule's sake, a demonstration of authority with no practical benefit, revealing an organization more concerned with hierarchy than with harnessing generational talent. To understand why this feels like such a profound insult, you have to understand what number 22 has become. For millions of fans, it's not just a jersey number, it's a symbol. It represents a seismic shift in how women's basketball is consumed. When people see 22, they think of those audacious shots from the midcourt logo. They think of jaw-dropping assists that defy physics. They think of sold-out arenas, record-shattering television ratings, and a level of mainstream buzz the game has never seen before. Caitlin Clark built a billion-dollar personal brand with that number on her back. It's as inseparable from her identity as 23 was from Michael Jordan or 30 was from Stephen Curry. Asking her to change it isn't like asking for a different locker. It's like asking her to partially erase the identity she spent a lifetime building. Team USA's proposed solution? The number 17. A number with zero history, zero meaning, and zero connection to Clark's legacy. Its only significance is that it is not 22. And for Clark, that was apparently a significance she refused to accept. In the lexicon of sports, certain numbers become transcendent. They carry the weight of legacy and achievement. The TO strip that from an athlete is to dismiss the very culture and connection they built with a global audience. Into this chaos steps a figure caught squarely in the middle, Sue Bird. The legendary former player is now the managing director for the women's national team. She's the architect of this new era, the one tasked with bridging the gap between established veterans and explosive new talent. And by all accounts, she is panicking. Sources close to the situation describe Bird as frantically scrambling behind the scenes, trying to salvage a relationship that's crumbling before the first practice even begins. But Bird's role is complicated, and that complication fuels endless speculation. She's an advocate for players, but she's also a part owner of a WNBA franchise. She's a beloved legend, but she's also a proud University of Connecticut alum, part of what some in the basketball world half-jokingly call the UConn Mafia. Her resume is untouchable: 5 Olympic gold medals, 4 WNBA championships, and a legacy as one of the greatest point guards ever. Yet, this crisis isn't about on-court strategy. It's a public relations disaster of the highest order, and her every move is now under a microscope. Her deep ties to the UConn program, a dominant force in women's college basketball, inevitably color perceptions of her neutrality in a conflict involving a superstar from Iowa. And this is where a controversial but compelling theory takes root. When the initial Olympic roster was announced, leaving Clark off, many pointed out the heavy presence of UConn alumni in the selection process and in Bird's inner circle. Now, with this number controversy, that whisper network has grown louder. The theory suggests that within USA basketball, there exists an insiders club, a legacy circle where shared history and relationships sometimes outweigh sheer star power or market force. The question being asked is brutal. If you're not from that certain tree, do you have to prove your loyalty twice as hard? Is this number issue a subtle test, a rite of passage imposed by an old guard uneasy with a superstar who bypassed their traditional system? Whether there's any truth to it or not, the mere existence of this theory shows how deeply trust in the organization's motives has eroded. This sentiment was echoed by analysts like Christine Brennan, who suggested politics and concerns about playing time for a rookie influenced the Olympic snub. The number dispute now feels like a second chapter in the same story, making it appear systemic rather than accidental. This number fiasco doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's the second chapter in a story that began with a shocking omission last spring. Despite being the most talked about athlete in the sport, Caitlin Clark was left off the roster for the Paris Olympics. The decision was defended with vague references to fit and international experience, but to the public, it felt like a deliberate snub of the sport's brightest lightning rod. Now, months later, she's invited to a training camp for the future, only to be told to leave a core piece of her identity at the door. When you connect these two dots, a pattern starts to emerge. It begins to look less like a series of unrelated decisions and more like a concerted, perhaps unconscious, effort to minimize a phenomenon they can't fully control. It's the reaction of a traditional institution to a disruptive force it didn't create and doesn't entirely know how to handle. First, they deny her the ultimate stage. Then, they challenge her personal brand. The message, however unintentional, feels clear. Know your place. The official reasoning for her Olympic omission pointed to defensive ratings and turnovers, but critics argued that her unparalleled ability to draw attention and grow the game globally was inexplicably undervalued. But here's the revolutionary twist in this saga. The dynamic has fundamentally flipped. USA basketball is operating on an old playbook where the honor of the jersey confers all the power. What they failed to grasp is that in today's world, Caitlin Clark doesn't need their validation. She has already rewritten the record books at Iowa. She is the primary reason the WNBA is seeing unprecedented ticket demand and TV deals. She moves merchandise and drives narratives all by herself. What exactly does she gain from a training camp that asks her to compromise the symbol of her revolution? On the other hand, what does USA basketball lose as she walks? They lose their gravitational center. They lose the millions of new, young fans who tune in only for her. They lose the media cyclone that follows her every move. They lose the central character in their own next-generation story. In this high-stakes game of chicken, Clark is driving a tank, and USA Basketball is on a bicycle. Sue Bird's panic isn't about managing a diva. It's the cold sweat realization that the institution she represents is on the verge of a catastrophic, self-inflicted irrelevance. Clark's financial power alone underscores this shift. She earns an estimated $16 million from endorsements versus just $114,000 from her WNBA salary. Her brand and influence operate on a plane far beyond the league's traditional economics. This clash goes far beyond one player and one number. It taps directly into the raw, simmering frustration that defines women's professional sports today. WNBA players are currently fighting bitter battles in CBA negotiations, demanding a fair share of the revenue they generate. They're tired of being told to be grateful for crumbs while their highlights break the internet. Caitlin Clark's stand over her jersey isn't petulance. It's a manifestation of this broader demand for respect. It's a declaration that her value is not up for negotiation, not even in the form of symbolic concessions. When she says this is non-negotiable, she's speaking for every athlete who has ever been told to sit down, be quiet, and be happy they were invited. Her leverage is unique, but the principle is universal. This is why the story resonates so deeply. It's a proxy war for autonomy in an industry that has historically granted athletes very little. Clark and her peers are not just players. They are influential figures driving the sport's popularity, and this incident highlights the tension between their market value and the control exerted by governing bodies. So where does this leave us? The fallout is already toxic. Team USA's reputation has taken a massive hit, painted as either staggeringly tone-deaf or deliberately petty. The December training camp, meant to be a celebration, was overshadowed by this entirely avoidable drama. The official roster, showing Clark listed with a different number, stands as permanent proof of their blunder. The path to a resolution seems simple on the surface. Give her the number. Apologize. Move on. But institutions built on hierarchy rarely back down easily. Will Sue Bird be able to broker a peace that satisfies Clark's demand for respect and the committee's bruised ego? Or will this end with Clark skipping the camp entirely? A nuclear option that would send shockwaves through the basketball world and prove, once and for all, where the real power lies. The world is watching to see if an organization can adapt to a new reality where athletes are their own greatest asset. The legacy of this bizarre controversy will be decided in the coming days, but it has already exposed a fundamental truth. The era where sports organizations could dictate terms without consequences over. For decades, the model was simple. The federation or the league held all the cards. They controlled the platform, the distribution, and the honor of participation. An athlete's power was almost entirely derived from their membership within that system. To be cast out was to risk obscurity. That model is now obsolete, shattered by the rise of direct-to-fan digital platforms and the globalization of personal brand building. Today's athletes aren't just employees of a league. They are CEOs of their own media empires, with social media followings that dwarf the viewership of traditional sports broadcasts and the ability to monetize their likeness and influence independently. This isn't a minor shift. It's a complete inversion of the traditional power structure, and many institutions are struggling to cope. Today's iconic athletes are personal empires. They have the platforms, the fans, and the financial independence to set their own conditions. Consider the sheer scale. Caitlin Clark's endorsement portfolio and influence operate in a financial stratosphere completely separate from her league salary. This economic reality grants a level of leverage previously unimaginable for a rookie. She, like other modern superstars, brings an audience that is monetizable far beyond the basketball court. This means a value exchange with a national team is no longer one-sided. The athlete is not just receiving the honor of the jersey. They are lending their empire's audience, credibility, and marketing power to the organization. When an institution fails to recognize this new value proposition, or worse, treats it as a threat, they are not just disrespecting a player. They are making a catastrophic business error by devaluing their own most valuable potential asset. USA Basketball tried to apply an old rule to a new reality, and in doing so, they sparked a rebellion. Their approach seemed rooted in a mindset of uniformity and top-down control, a relic from an era where the collective identity of Team USA was meant to supersede any individual. However, in 2024, that philosophy clashes violently with the economics and culture of modern sports fandom. Fans don't just follow teams, they follow personalities. They buy the jersey of the player, not just a team. By attempting to strip Clark of the number that is central to her brand identity, they weren't enforcing a neutral policy. They were attempting to neutralize the very individuality that makes her their biggest draw. It was a clumsy assertion of old authority that failed to comprehend that the athlete's brand is now often more powerful and resonant than the institution's own brand. This story is no longer just about Caitlin Clark's jersey. It's about who gets to control the narrative, the brand, and the future of the game itself. Will the future be shaped by flexible, athlete-centric partnerships that recognize mutual value? Or will it be hampered by rigid, institutional gatekeeping that views player power with suspicion? This controversy is a microcosm of battles happening across sports, over name, image, and likeness, nil rights in college athletics, over revenue sharing in professional leagues, and over creative control in content production. The central question is whether organizations will be smart partners in building the star power that elevates everyone, or if they will cling to outdated models of control until their relevance fades. It's a lesson for every sports governing body. You can either embrace and empower your superstars, or you can become irrelevant fighting them. The choice is at stark. Embracing a superstar doesn't mean ceding all control. It means crafting intelligent partnerships. It means understanding that when a player's brand grows, the entire sport benefits. It means modernizing policies, from jersey numbers to media access to promotional commitments, to align with this new reality. The alternative is to watch as your premier events lose cultural cachet, as your biggest stars engage on their own terms elsewhere, and as a new generation of fans loyal to players first finds its entertainment outside the traditional structures. For USA basketball, the path forward is clear. Recognize the empire, respect the emperor, and build a throne alongside her, because try to tear it down only ensures your own palace ends up empty. What do you think Caitlin Clark should do? Should she stand her ground? Or is wearing any USA jersey an honor that transcends a number? And what does this tell us about the changing balance of power in all of sports? Let me know your honest take in the comments below. If you found this deep dive into the drama and the politics behind it revealing, make sure you show your support. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. The fallout is just beginning, and you won't want to miss what happens next.